The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Marina Sprocki, and I'm the host of Always Another Way podcast. I have a master's in professional counseling, and I'm the IPPY Award-winning author of Stop Looking for a Husband, Find the Love of Your Life, and Nasty Divorce, A Kid's Eye View. I write positive divorce advice for the HuffPost, and I'm trained in clinical hypnosis. And this podcast speaks to out-of-the-box thinkers, and it's for those who hear the call of hope and always another way. And if you're very rigid and set in your beliefs, this is probably not your cup of tea. However, you should note, tastes can and do change. And I just want to thank everyone who listens to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, make sure that you go to your podcast app and have subscribed to this podcast and rate it. And today, I am just super excited to have these guests on. They were on my very first podcast, See Yourself Unbound. So you will definitely want to go back to that if you haven't heard it. Excuse me, but what I have learned, and that I know to be true in life, is that, and this is also research proven. I read an article maybe in 2017 by a neuroscientist who has said that your health and happiness is pretty much determined by the 5 people you spend your time with the most. And that being said, if you dive in a little bit deeper, if you just think about the 5 people that you spend time with the most, how do you feel when you're with them? And I'm talking like generally, not like, on any given day, people can be up and down. We all have good days and bad days. But for the most part, how does that person make you feel? And if you find that the people you're around with the most don't make you feel good, that is adversely going to affect your health. And you probably don't need research to prove that. That being said, trauma is everywhere. If you look at the ACEs Too High study, which is the largest study done by the CDC and Kaiser Permanente on adverse childhood experiences, you can see that it is super widespread. Likewise, trauma is also physical accidents. You were in a car wreck, you hurt yourself skiing. So a lot of us, and especially as you get older in life, are, maybe you are, searching for ways to have a better life and be better, or to heal from the different things that life has served you, be it physical or emotional trauma. And I want to introduce to you my 2 guests that are going to talk about the 12 stages of healing. Amy Gunderson-Lewis grew up in the Pacific Northwest. She had always had a love for nature, life, and adventure in the outdoors. She knew good health was the gateway for being able to experience all the magic life had to offer. She pursued a career in bodywork directly out of high school. And while working in various chiropractic offices, she was exposed to the philosophy and science of chiropractic, and it gripped her soul as a familiar calling. She then went to Parker University in Dallas, Texas, where she obtained her Doctor of Chiropractic degree. And while in chiropractic school, Amy's adrenals went into exhaustion, creating many debilitating symptoms. She tried many different avenues with no success. A friend had told her about network spinal analysis chiropractor, and she figured she had nothing to lose, so she gave it a shot. The results were life-changing, and there was no doubt that this was the reason she was led down the chiropractic path. After that, Amy went all in to learn this technique so she could pass this gift along. She now serves in Dallas, Texas at Self Unbound, and is grateful to get to witness miracle after miracle every day in the lives of their practice members. And Tyler Lewis is an Arkansas native. Dr. Tyler Lewis graduated from Hendrix College in Conway, Arkansas with a Bachelor of Arts in Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. Inspired by the body's innate wisdom to heal, Tyler attended Parker University in Dallas, Texas, where he graduated with a Doctor of Chiropractic in April 2016. At Parker, Tyler refined his attention to studying consciousness and its effects on an individual's total well-being. He first engrossed himself in the hardware of the brain, studying functional neurology through the Carrick Institute for 2.5 years. He then found network spinal analysis, which radically shifted his perceptions of self, the human connection, and the nature of purpose and reality. This inspired Tyler to dedicate his life practicing network spinal analysis. Today, Tyler serves the Dallas, Texas community at Self Unbound, where he pours his soul into sharing the same revolutionary shift in well-being with everyone he contacts. So welcome to the show, Dr. Amy and Dr. Tyler.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to have you. So I'm just going to I'm going to let you all just kind of take it right away. I can tell you, I know personally that it's true, and that going back to the people that you spend time with in your life around, I will say that spending my time around both of you has made my life better and my health better too. So that's for sure. But anyways, take it away.
Awesome. And again, thank you so much. What you were saying earlier about the impact that trauma can have on our lives. I mean, every single human being on this planet goes through experiences that can shape them in some pretty profound ways. It's amazing how much pain can be a motivator for change, whether they are big incidents that happen in our life, such as loss or severe physical accidents. Even a lot of the pain that we see is what I like to call micro traumas, small little belief systems that we're taught over and over and over again, where we really begin to, modify our own life and modify our own lens and start acting out, even if it's unconscious from these belief systems that we've been taught. But when we start actually looking at pain, whether that is physical pain, whether it's mental pain, whether it's emotional pain, pain has a huge impact on our lives. And in fact, when we start looking at how pain is treated in the United States alone, it's like one of the largest industries in the US is managing pain.
Right. Opioid crisis, ding, ding.
Exactly. And I feel like there's been this oversight, rather than tapping in and asking, okay, why is this pain happening? We've kind of villainized pain and we're attacking it as though it's an enemy and it needs to go away.
Yeah.
Really, pain is extremely valuable. We need to be able to listen to pain. Pain is a signal in our life that says, hey, something has to stop. Whatever you're doing in your life, whether that be physical, mental, or emotional patterns of behaviors, has got to change. It's got to change. Being able to listen to that, we receive wisdom. What is it that needed to change? One of the most beautiful things that we've learned going on this journey, being engrossed in network spinal care, and something that we've learned from our teacher and mentor, Dr. Donald Epstein, he recognized these organic rhythms that would pop up in any healing process, which he coined as the 12 stages of healing. And in this system, we begin to look at like looking at a roadmap. Every healing process starts somewhere and eventually can lead us somewhere extremely profound if we're willing to be with that experience, from a point of complete separation, isolation, to a place where all of a sudden we begin to receive all the gifts that pain was trying to tell us all along, and we can share that with everyone. And so that's something that today we wanted to be able to share with you and all of your guests about how amazing having a roadmap to healing really is.
Right? It's nice to see that there's like a light at the end of the tunnel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because when we have a reason to move forward, we tend to be willing to engage with a lot of things we don't necessarily want to.
Right.
And so having this map actually gives us context to the process that's already organically happening. Like Tyler said, Donnie Epstein gave context to this, but he didn't create this. This is organic rhythms that pop up in our lives, and it's cool. He just learned this through watching people. So this isn't a map that was created that some people might believe in or some people it might be useful for, but this is actually rhythms that pop up organically in all of us in every situation. Whether, we touched upon healing being, it could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be mental, it could be spiritual, but really it's never just one of those things. It's always all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Like even though accidents, physical accidents, we can look at as like, well, sometimes trauma is just trauma. Sometimes it was just a car accident, but our emotional stress and our mental stress, all those different things impact our ability to adapt to physical situations.
Right? That's true.
Yeah. So it's like, why was it the shoulder that couldn't adapt? Why was it the knee that couldn't adapt? So even though there was a physical impact, the part of the body that was affected is also tied to the part that wasn't able to adapt due to these other types of stressors. So when we're healing, everything's intimately involved. And that's what these 12 stages go over. They go over the context, the consciousness, so the thought and emotions that come up, but also the body and the way the body actually moves and heals and goes from, like Tyler said, separateness to wholeness.
Yeah. Well, let's keep digging.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, and I will say before we jump in here, the goal of the 12 stages, look, first off, you've had aspects of yourself, you've already been through all 12, and you have multiple pieces of yourself that are in different parts of the 12 stages right now.
Yeah.
The goal of this is not to, start from stage 1, go all the way to stage 2 or stage 12, you get your graduation hat and you move on and you're healed for life. Like, that's not how this works.
Because life keeps happening, right?
Exactly. Life keeps happening. This is more like an upward spiral.
Yeah.
And the more consciousness, the more awareness and acceptance that you can bring to wherever you're at in your healing journey, the more energy, the more fuel, and the more richness you can begin to receive from that experience.
Right.
Yeah, not only do we spiral around, like, okay, we go 1 through 12 and we come back around, it's not always a linear experience because there's lots of different parts of us. We have different relationships in our lives, we have different body parts, we have different patterns that we contend with all the time, different roles that we're playing all the time. So we might be experiencing stage 5 in one of those roles and then stage 2 in a different one. So we'll experience them in all kinds of order because we're experiencing different parts of us in all kinds of order, whatever comes to the forefront.
Yeah.
So yes, they're 1 through 12, but that doesn't necessarily mean our experience is linear.
Yeah.
But we'll go through them now in kind of a linear fashion.
All right, let's do it.
That's
But that's
okay.
also good to know from the get-go too. You know what I mean? Like people say there's like stages of like particularly grief, like from a lost person, like that goes through that. So she's identified that, but sort of like, but still, there's still also parts, in grief that it's not like, oh, well, I'm over that,
Totally.
loss.
And
either.
sometimes it's like you'll go through the stages of grief and then you go through them at a superficial level and then you come back around and do it even deeper and deeper and deeper. It's like we can heal like throughout our whole lifetime from grieving, one person or one thing, one type of, or one source of grief, but we can just keep digging deeper. So
Yeah. All right, let's dive in.
So
Awesome.
the first stage of the 12 stages is suffering. So that's where the pain pops up. Really it can look one of two ways. It can be suffering, pain, or it can be disconnection. So, the whole idea of healing is you go from separateness to wholeness. And Donnie Epstein has a quote where he says, in order for there to be healing, there has to be a change in meaning. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what this will lead you through, is a change in meaning of this pain. But in stage 1, we're experiencing ourselves as separate, or our body part is separate, and it's painful because our human nature is we want to connect, whether it's our body wanting to connect with itself or us wanting to connect with other people. And when we're separate and alone, there's a lot of our needs that don't get met. Like you said, being around the 5 most people that you're around the most has an impact on your health. That's because we're exchanging energy. Yeah. And so if we don't have access to that energy, we start to shrivel. Yeah, right. It really does have an impact.
Know that.
Yeah. So stage 1 is either experiencing that or experiencing an emptiness, like a blind spot.
Mm-hmm. Know that too.
Right? You ever had those moments where all of a sudden the car just appears out of nowhere? Yeah. that happens with our bodies and our emotions too. Right. And so in stage 1, we're really experiencing our pain as if we are the pain. There's nothing outside of it because we're separate. So it's just us alone in it. Nobody can relate to it. Nobody's ever had pain like ours, because if someone could relate to it, then that means that we're not alone in it. So there's like no empathy. There's like, this has never happened before, and don't even pretend like you understand my pain because it's mine. Yeah. And so that's the epitome of stage 1. Yeah. Stage 2 is when we start to see something outside of that. And really we start projecting something outside of that because it's so painful and it's like such hell to be there, that we give our power to something outside of that, or we project our power onto something else. So it's like, okay, let's say I got a new boyfriend in my life and I was in stage 1 and I was suffering and I'm like, I'm going to be alone forever. And all of a sudden I see this guy and I'm like, oh, he could save me from this loneliness or this suffering. So stage 2 is when we see something outside of ourselves that either 1, can save us from our suffering, or 2, we blame our suffering on something outside of ourselves.
That's a good one too.
Yep.
So, same thing. Maybe I have this relationship and I'm in stage 1 and I'm suffering, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. This isn't my suffering. You're making me suffer. This is because of you, because you're in my life. Yeah. And so stage 2, it's like there's more energy there because there's more possibility. We're not alone. And we have movement starting to happen, polarity. So stage 2 is all about polarity.
On another side of that, that's with relationship, but even physical healing, we can do that as well. Like, I'm sick, I'm broken. This person is the person that's going to save me. This is the person who's going to fix me. This is the person who's going to make me heal. We're looking for that magic bullet.
Yeah, right.
It's just going to cure our suffering. But again, listen to that projection. The power is outside of us still. They're the one who's going to fix us.
And so stage 2, we're always looking to move away from pain. And that's where a lot of the opioid crisis and a lot of the way our healthcare is right now is because as a society, the majority of us stay in 1 and 2 a lot of our lives. We're always looking to get out of pain or look for something to save us. And so that's a really big deal to be able to connect with this, because the idea of these stages is not to get to the next one or get out of them. It's to recognize you're in it so you can connect to the rhythm and the energy that's there so you can build energy and then move on. Things happen organically, but if we resist where we're at, we're never going to leave the stage that we're in.
Yeah.
So then comes stage 3. Stage 3 is about stuckness, and it's literally being stuck in that polarity, being stuck in a certain mindset, being stuck in a certain perspective, something happening over and over again. It's like getting in a relationship, blaming our problems on that person, so getting out of the relationship, then getting in a new one that's just like the old one. It's like that happens. And same thing with like doctors. If, this doctor is going to save me. If they don't save us, then go to the next doctor and the next doctor. And so that's what stage 3 is. It's recognizing like, I've been here before.
Yeah.
This is
Groundhog Day.
Yes. This has been going on too long. And so in stage 3, we start to feel the frustration of that. And we start to feel the smallness of our container. We start to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm suffocating, because you just don't really see an end in sight. It's not like a stage 1, like we're all alone in it, but there is pain that starts to pop up for good
Like I'm trying
reason.
things and it's not working.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have 2 options at that point. We can either go into the suffering and keep repeating 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They call that like
The waltz.
The waltz.
The waltz of
And that's
suffering,
where
yeah.
a lot of people stay their whole lives, that 1, 2, 3. Or we can say, I'm the common denominator here.
Yeah.
I'm done with this pattern. I'm done with it. I take my power back. I'm going to take responsibility over this. And so stage 4 is about taking our power back. Like, how can I see this another way? How can I move toward something instead of run away from something?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so stage 4 is a really big, huge one. And once we get into stage 4, it's like that's where change can start to happen. That's where transformation starts to happen. So in the 12 stages, Donnie calls the first 3 discover. That's the season of discover. And that's when we're like discovering ourselves, becoming conscious of the things that are going on, and pain, and where the sense of or the source of our fuel is, because pain is essentially fuel. If things weren't painful, we'd never really have a desire to change them.
Right.
So pain is actually a gift in the fact that it keeps us from staying small, and it pushes us towards wanting more and stepping more into our nature and like transformation. So stage 4, we take our power back.
And just to pause here for just a moment, honestly, this is where majority of the world gets trapped.
In the 1 through 3.
Yeah.
And the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Like I'm miserable, but I don't know what I can do with it.
Right.
Kind of
Yeah.
just uncomfortable. I got to live with it.
Right. And we see this pop up, not just like within ourselves, but we see it pop up in politics.
Yeah.
Right. It's always wanting to blame the other party for the problems that are arising. Right. Again, this is like, there's no accountability. There's no responsibility. If I had anything to do with this, it was all something outside
Right.
of myself. And then here we go. And then we find ourselves having been stuck in a pattern, physically, mentally, emotionally, politically, socioeconomically, whatever. And we want change so much, but there's a big decision. What Amy talked about in stage 4, the importance of stage 4 is you are now taking responsibility. Enough of this. I am reclaiming my power over this situation. I'm going to be responsible for the change that I'm going to make.
Right.
Because where we usually fall flat is all of a sudden we say, we can revert back to stage 2. And that's where a lot of people can't make change, where they find themselves stuck in the waltz is, hey, I want to make change, so I'm going to do it in order to get away from this situation. Because this situation is bad, I want to go just towards something good.
Yeah.
But that's a polarity, right? That's
Right.
dropping back into that other one. And
Because
so
it's a little bit of avoidance too, you know?
Right.
Yeah. When
right.
you're doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Not wanting to be accountable to your part of the situation. So this is where it starts getting really fun, is you start recognizing your own power to begin to actually create the change for what you are responsible for.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's really what stage 5 brings, because yes, it can be painful to be like, okay, I'm the
It's
common
me.
denominator. It's me. Like, that doesn't always feel good.
I know.
I mean, sometimes it does, but the more you go through it, it actually does start to feel good, because you're like, oh my God, this can change.
Right?
Right.
Because it's me.
Yeah.
And I can control me.
Yeah, I've been in that recently where I'm like, oh damn, that's me.
Yeah.
And then, but oh wait, yeah, I cannot do that same thing again.
Yeah, because we can't control other people, right? But we do have control over what we decide to be accountable with. And so stage 5 is that moment right after we say, okay, I'm willing to look at my part in this and why this persisted so long and what I need to change and what I need to step into. So stage 5 is called merging with the illusion. It's like either merging with our shadow, so the parts of us that we're not proud of, the parts of us that did run from pain, the parts of us that were reactive, the parts of us that were judgmental, like whatever it was, or merging with our light. Sometimes the reason why we don't move forward is because we don't feel like we deserve it, because we're not good enough or we're not worthy. And so stage 5 is like, basically we took a snow globe and it was stuck, and then in stage 4 we're saying, I'm going to shake this up and I'm going to look at everything that's there. And stage 5 is like looking at all that snow floating and being like, okay, this is me, this was an illusion, this is bullshit, this is the truth of who I am, this is, and it's just allowing that illusion to start, like that curtain to start peeling back, and you seeing what's really going
Yeah,
on.
that was a good visual.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
So then stage 6, like after we get real and after we start to see our part and stuff, and we start to see what the truth of the nature is without us like blinding ourselves from half of it and just wanting to be right or wanting to get away from pain. If we're really ready to, if it's going to be painful, fine, I'll step into it. Whatever it takes to resolve this. And that's what stage 6 is. It's whatever it takes. It's not only being willing to do whatever it takes, but stage 6 is the actual action of it happening.
Yeah.
Like once, as humans, like when we're really exposed to truth and we really feel something resonate with the authentic part of our beingness, it's a rare occasion that will turn the other way, because
Yeah.
it feels like home. It feels good. And we are willing to do whatever it takes. So this action is happening. Like
Yeah.
we're in the middle of doing whatever it takes because it's right.
Yeah.
Not because it's comfortable, but because we must.
Right.
And we know there's more. And we will do anything to get back to our, kind of back to our authentic nature, right?
Yeah.
So stage 6 is doing whatever it takes. And then comes stage 7.
Just really quickly, Inda, so let's take say that you've been wanting to have a healthier diet, you've been wanting to go to the gym and start exercising, but you keep telling yourself.
I'm there.
And it never happens, right? Stage 6 is when you actually change your diet, and when you actually go to the gym, you're there. And then you continue to go back and you continue to go back, because the concept of that is, well, okay, it's going to be so easy. I'm just going to get there. I'm going to start eating, and then all these health changes are going to
Yeah.
happen. And it's going
Instantly.
to be great. Yeah, it's going to happen immediately. But that's a concept.
Yeah.
Stage 6 is all about the embodiment of the amazing pieces of that, where, okay, I actually feel myself getting healthier, and also being with the pieces that are still resistant. They're
Yeah.
still like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this today. I just really want to eat whatever. I just really don't want to go work out today. But yet you continue to choose to show up. You
Right.
continue to choose to show up.
Yeah. That's a good example.
Yeah, and all the stories that you have to call yourself out on, that's stage 5. So in the midst,
Like, this is the reason why I am not this way. It's like, I mean, you know what I mean? And then doing something about it. Like,
exactly. And it's like, okay, when you talk about like the diet and the food, that I'd rather stay home and eat these cookies. And it's like, but maybe in stage 5, when you're having to merge with the illusion, you have to start facing the fact that maybe you're eating the cookies because that's the only sense of joy that you feel, because you've been living a life that's inauthentic to yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, this goes deeper than just like having the energy to go to the gym. It's like, there's all these parts of us we have to face, and that's what's there. That's what the wall is made out of. Anytime we feel resistance to do something that we know we must, it's like the BS that we don't really want to look at.
right? Yeah, exactly. Because then it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it's like, it does suck being in that point to be like, oh, this isn't happening the way I want it to be,
Exactly. And it probably means that we're trying to rush to the destination, but really there's gold along the way for us. Like when we start to face these pieces of us that pop up, that we're tough, that we don't really want to be with, there's a gift there, because we start to realize that all these stories that we thought were true about ourselves aren't.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's so much healing that happens along the process, and a lot of times we just want to get to the end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So stage 7 is resolution. It's like, if you think about Okay, I'm going to give you another visual. Okay, let's say we have a wine glass, a crystal wine glass, and it's full of water. And this crystal wine glass with the water in it represents us and us in our authentic nature beyond the stories that we're told when we're young, like who are we supposed to be, what we should do, who we are, but it's not really who we really are. So as we go through life, if you think about all of our conditioning and all of those like things that people have imposed upon us our whole lives as stones, and we place them in the cup. So each story, like, okay, Marina, you're
not a good singer.
girl. Yeah, you're not a good singer.
not true, but-
You need to be a good girl. You should be blonde your whole life. Like whatever it is. Like all your stones go in there. Well, you know a wine glass, when you dip your finger in the water and you run your finger around the outside, it makes that like like beautiful noise. Let's say that's the vibration of us. Like we each have a vibrational signature, because we do.
Yeah.
So you resonate at a certain vibration. That's Marina, and that's why you're Marina.
Yeah.
Well, if you put stones in that water and you try to do it, it changes that vibration. It starts sounding like, because it's not that clear resonance of the glass.
Yeah.
So when we go through the stages of healing, what's happening is we're recognizing that we're not resonating at our authentic nature, and there's stones in our glass, and all the pain is supposed to wake us up to all those stones and all that crap that isn't us, so we can get it out.
Yeah.
Stage 7 is resolution, when we're actually pulling those rocks out. Anything that's not authentic to us, it's got to go. So we're purging it. And that, stage 7 in the body is like when you're sick, and it can be vomiting, it can be like a draining of your sinuses, like purging stuff in the body that's not us, that can't live in us, that's not authentic to us. But emotionally, mentally, it can be all those stories, it can be all the stored like grief and anger, because we felt like, oh, who am I to express anger as a good girl or
Right.
whatever. It's
Yeah.
like all this crap that's just in us and in our field and in our bodies, we're purging it. And so you take all those rocks out of that glass and you make that noise around the outside. It's like, that's your resonance again. And it was really cool. So Donnie, at this last program we went to with him, he explained that resonance as that's what attracts things in your life to you.
Yeah.
So that's your manifesting ability, right? And so when we have a note playing that's not our authentic nature, we attract a lot of crap to us. But that crap is supposed to show us that we're not resonating as us.
Yeah.
And so it's a gift, but it doesn't feel good, but it's not supposed to. But then when our glass is clean and clear and we resonate like at our authentic nature, we attract things that resonate with us, and things start to feel really good, because our life is always showing us, are you living in your nature or are you not? And so it's not happening to us, it's happening for us.
Right? And
Yeah.
I was even thinking, like, as I was getting that visual, like, of the stones, like when you don't see them, but you hear it, it's like when something suddenly becomes conscious to you that's maybe like unconscious for some reason, like, I don't know why this is happening to me. And then suddenly you're like, oh, whoa, I totally know why this is happening to me.
Yes.
And then when you're aware of it,
Yes.
I guess that's that whole thing together, like, yeah. Mhm.
Yes. And so you just explained it right there. It's like it can happen so quickly. When you said, I don't know why this is happening to me, that's like stage 3. I'm stuck in this. I don't know why it's happening to me. The second you are willing to see why it is, stage 4, stage 5 is, oh, this is why it's happening to me.
Then you got to do something about it.
Yes.
Right.
And then that's stage 6. And then 7 is when it's done.
Yeah.
So it's like, no matter what, when people talk about things that happen in their lives or transformations, they always follow these patterns.
For reals, yeah. I know. I mean, I can think of like many examples.
Yeah, exactly. So stage 8.
So this is actually just really quickly
Yeah.
here. This is a really cool part about this, is that healing doesn't begin at, or it doesn't end at resolution.
Yeah.
When you reach your health goals, when you make the changes and you see the result of all of your hard work and you get exactly what you sought out to achieve, it doesn't end there. There's more.
Yeah. But
And-
there's more.
There's more.
And so stages 4 through 7 are what we call transform. Again, it's all about changing the form of something, changing the expression. There's still so much more to go.
Yeah.
Which is stage 8.
Keep going. We got time.
The beginning of the season of awaken.
Yeah.
So it's an awakening to your authentic nature, right? So you get to experience what has been there the whole time. It's not awakening to something new. It's something that existed the whole time, but something was obstructing it.
Yeah.
Right? So that wine glass, it's like with water in it, without all those stones, like that's your authentic nature. It's true. It's home. It's the nature of reality. But then because of all the stuff, we saw it distorted. So 8 is like reawakening to truth, to you, to yourself, to your life, to your potential. And beyond that, it's like to the world, like the real nature and reality of the world. And so when people talk about like spiritual awakenings, it's like when you start to get glimpses of what you know is true and has always been true.
Yeah.
It's not that we're transforming into something different. It's like we're moving beyond the illusion.
Right?
Yeah.
The veil has been lifted.
Yes. So stage 8 is the emptiness. It's the emptiness without all of those rocks in the container, right? Like if we have tension in our body and that resolves, all of a sudden it's like you can breathe again. And so it's that container that was keeping you small. It's like the sides just burst and then you feel this emptiness. There's like this pause and this space that happens.
But like good emptiness.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's funny you say that because, you know, stages can be layered, but I won't go into that because it's complicated. But sometimes people have a negative connotation to emptiness.
Yeah.
So sometimes people get to stage 8 and it's like, oh my God, who am I without my tension?
Oh, yeah,
Who
right.
am I without all this stress? And you get scared and it's not comfortable. So people will go right back into the same patterns because it's more comfortable to suffer and be familiar than it is to not suffer, but be in the unfamiliar because anything can arise from there.
Right. And they say that too about like sometimes traumatic attachment, like when you grow up like in chaos, until you realize it, when you're around something. I can say this for myself personally, when you're around something that's like still, I remember like you'd be like, I hate it when it's like super quiet, like it's so annoying to me. And it would just be like so uncomfortable to me that just like that there's not noise or like confusion. And I mean, and I lived like that for a while until I probably went through some stages and then was like, oh, wait,
This is where the magic happens.
there's something totally different. And then now when it's super chaotic, like I'm like, no gracias. You know?
Yes. Yeah. And so it is. It's funny. That's super common. And
But it feels uncomfortable because you just like, it's that middle ground, you know?
It's unfamiliar. Yeah. And we can grieve things that weren't necessarily healthy for us. Like we can be in a bad relationship and have resolution happen and then still miss it because we were used to that person being around. Like we were attached.
Yeah.
And so, you know, having this context too, to know that space is going to open up and what comes next allows us to sit with the discomfort there too and eventually really like it. Like you said, like,
it's not going to kill me. I'll be all right.
Yeah.
You know?
Isn't that funny how we can have an aversion to peace?
Oh yeah. I was totally like, oh my gosh, like, and moved to New York City. I was like, yeah, I mean, I do still like New York City, but like that rhythm of like nonstop was like just matched my beat at the time. And then, of course, in hindsight, we can see a lot of things, but yeah,
But
for
it's what
real.
you needed. It's what you needed at the time. Okay, so from that piece, that's where anything's possible, right? Like we're sitting in this space just waiting to receive because we were a full cup before, right? So we couldn't fit any more stones in our glass, but when it's empty, new things can be added. And we actually have a choice because we're conscious now. Like, do we want to add this? Do we not want to add this? Well, stage.
And that's true control and freedom right there, you know?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When it's a conscious decision.
Yeah.
Empowerment.
Way better.
Yeah. And you know how I talked about that resonance? That's us, our signature going out. We start to attract the things that are coming in and we attract things that resonate with us and that are of our true nature. So when we enter stage 9, it's called the light behind the form. It's like that's when these things start to come to the forefront. It's like they were always around. We just weren't resonating with them, but they're still in this space of everything.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so it's receiving the gifts. Like stage 9 is starting to see the truth and the essence of what was always there that we were keeping ourselves from. And so even
Like my nature and stillness, like it was always there. And then before I was like, oh, so annoying. And now I'm like hear the wind and look at the trees and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, you know, there's not darkness and then light, there's light and then absence of it. And so it's the same thing. It's like, you know, you're in the midst of all this chaos, but if the chaos wasn't there, the silence was there the whole time.
Right?
So even in the midst of New York, like there is stage 8, it's sitting there.
For sure, yeah.
You just have to know how to tap into it, right? How to be with it, how to recognize it. And so stage 9 is when we start to see like, okay, when I was in stage 2, maybe I was judging you and projecting things onto you, but that's not really who you are. So in stage 9, I actually start to see what was there the whole time without my projection. So you start to see people differently. You start to see the world differently. It's like that What a Wonderful World song. Like he's like singing about all these ordinary things like flowers and trees and babies. And it's like the stuff was here the whole time, but you're just now seeing the magic because you can.
Right? Yeah.
Like all the ordinary things start to be illuminated as extraordinary. And so that's stage 9. Stage 10 is when we realize we're actually connected to all of it and nothing's separate.
I like that.
Stage 10 is about oneness. It's what a lot of people seek through, sometimes artificially through drugs, sometimes through like yoga, Kundalini yoga, different, like a lot of spiritual activities and things aimed so that we can experience this, so that we can know the truth of our nature, that we're not a drop, or we're not separate from the ocean.
Yeah.
We're a drop, but we're in the ocean.
You're the ocean
right?
in a drop, or
Ocean
whatever
in
it
a
is.
drop.
Yeah, exactly. But to experience that on a visceral level, so it's not a concept. And, going from stage 9 and seeing the light in someone else, because we merge with the light in us, we start to recognize like this is familiar. And I feel like, you start to see how you're connected to the world and the universe in bigger ways, because as these things are coming into your life and you're attracting these things, you start to see like we resonate, and energy is a real thing. Like this isn't just some crazy woo-woo stuff. Like,
Well, you can feel like just on that energy is a real thing. Like for anybody who like, let's say you're not believing in that, like you go to a stadium when like something's going on and people are super hyped. Can you feel that energy?
Yeah.
When somebody comes in super pissed in your house, can you feel that energy? Like,
exactly.
there you go.
Exactly. And so it's like that simple. We experience that all the time. And it's just funny that it's been such a taboo thing to talk about.
But like anybody can have those two examples. Like, when someone's mad and when someone's not mad.
Right.
Or exuberant, on that other spectrum.
Right.
Yes. So in stage 10, it's like absence of words, nothing separate. You see and feel and know that you're a part of everything. But yet, obviously, we're experiencing our lives as human and as separate. So after we're done with that oneness experience, now all of a sudden we come out the other side with the wisdom of that, but the knowing and valuing that we have to experience ourselves as separate. And why is that? And it's because we each have unique things to contribute. Like, yes, we're part of a whole, but there's a reason why we're individual drops. And it's because we've had different life experiences. We have different lenses and ways of seeing things. And so we're all working and seeing things differently, so we can start to share these perspectives with each other in this gift and this wisdom. And then all of a sudden we can have compassion for other people on the journey, because we've been up the mountain and now we're coming back down. So 11 is called the descent.
Yeah.
Stage 9 and 10, if you think about the ascent, and then 10's at the top of the mountain, we're coming back down, and it's like the energy of the sage, or someone who saw the light and now wants to, the prophet or whatever it is, right? That's stage 11. It's knowing that you have gifts to give, and so does everybody else. Like, we're no different. I'm no different than you, and you're no different than me. So nobody's better or less than anybody else.
Everybody has their own particular thing. Like, your gift
Yes.
is this, like you're wearing pink and he's wearing blue and I got black.
Yes. And you become really curious about people and what their gifts are, because we all have them. We're all here for a reason together, and everybody is so magnificent and amazing and cut from the same cloth. And so it's like you feel this like need and drive for connection more than ever, because you know how important it is, and it's almost like a treasure hunt.
Right. And that's way better too than like, so I grew up with somebody who was like highly critical of people, like everything, like this person, this, and you start to hear that. And then I was like pretty judgy too, like, me. And that's kind of miserable to be that way, really, internally, versus like just instead of judging people, like letting that go. And especially when you see like, it was one piece of advice my mom gave me before I had kids. And she said, somebody told me this when I was once, like, don't ever talk about anybody else's kids, because you don't know what yours are going to do. She's like, and I'm glad I kept my mouth shut. But really, because like, you don't know what you're going to go through in life. And it's really easy to be like, oh, I would never do that. And then, then you find yourself, oh my gosh, I thought I would never be that. And yet, here we are.
Exactly, right? You went to that stage 10 of realizing like you were a part of like parents as a whole, like this whole entity, like we're all a part of this. You come out the other side, like that journey's not easy.
Yeah.
And all steps of the way are messy.
Yeah.
And good job even attempting it. Like you look at other parents. But So there's this abundance challenge. Have you heard of the 21-day abundance challenge that people are doing? It's
Tell
like
me
the
more.
Deepak Chopra.
I don't know.
Okay, so anyways, they're
But I like what you're saying.
It's like a chain letters. It's kind of like that, but there's these abundance groups going on. So anyways, I'm a part of one of them right now, and one of the exercises, each day you have exercises to do. One of the exercises was to write down 50 people that have made an influence on your life throughout your whole life, whatever, just any 50 people. I wrote down my list, and at the end I looked at it. Half of those people were people that at the time, to me, felt like a trauma.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Which was interesting because
Yeah.
it's like, wow, not everybody on this list were people that like, oh, this person helped me and supported me in this way that felt really good. A lot of times it was ways that didn't feel really good, but it served me so much.
Because that was the catalyst to open up to see something differently.
Yes. And so, talking about that stage 11 and having the compassion and like, seeing that other people are struggling and doing things, sometimes love isn't always just like turning the other cheek and just being like, oh, they're suffering. They can do whatever they want to do. Sometimes it's calling them out on it. Sometimes it's being like, yeah, this journey is tough, and be accountable. Step into that. And so it's really interesting, the perspectives that come on the other side, that love isn't just butterflies and rainbows and fairies and things that feel good. Like sometimes real love is seeing someone right where they're at and telling them like, this is unacceptable.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when it's abuse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's awesome.
No.
Yes, we all have gifts to give, and sometimes our gift can be saying no.
Yeah.
Like having the wisdom and the consciousness to be like, no.
Yeah.
And so stage 11 gifts, giving and receiving of gifts, can look a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Which that's good to like know for perspective too.
Yeah, totally. And then end of the 12 stages, not the end though, really. But the last is community. Stage 12 is about community. So now it's like we have all of us individuals with our gifts, and we're giving and receiving. And stage 12 is like how we all fit together. And it's the experience of that. So that's kind of, it's like heaven and earth united. It's like everything has its place and everything is feeding off of each other. And it's just that experience of like oneness but separateness at the same time.
Yeah. I love it. 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 And so like with all that, like, so just let's talk a little bit more about like where you can, let's talk about how you can experience that, the stuff you guys are doing, all that, or anything else you want to say, within that realm of the 12 stages. And then, and I guess people want to know, like, I would want to know too, like, how quickly can this happen? But you know what I mean? Like, not really that, but I know that everybody's looking for like how quickly this can happen. But I do think, well, back to you. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
as far as time goes, a lot of things have different timing, right?
Yeah.
And so we can experience not only a lot of different stages at one time, but some can last longer and be more of a lifelong 12 stage like of healing. And then some can be in smaller parts of our lives that we zoom through stuff. So really, if we're ever wanting it to speed up and we're not enjoying the journey, we're in stage 2.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, just kidding. I don't care how long it takes.
I mean, like true healing is something that's cultivated.
Yeah.
That requires you being with it. And just like she said, I like thinking about healing like a garden or a forest. Some plants come up super fast, right? They just grow, they blossom, and they're done. And then some like big, large trees take a long time, but the ones that take a long time also bring with them so much richness.
Yeah, like those huge redwoods,
Yes.
2,000-year-old.
Exactly.
More, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to get into like 2,000 years, you could talk about past lives, right? Like some of the healing happens over multiple lifetimes.
Right.
Some of it happens over a day.
Yeah, because you can have a cognitive shift like that and then be on the next road.
And a lot of these stages you don't even realize happen because they can happen so quickly. And sometimes, again, like I said, they can be drawn out for a while.
Go ahead.
So one thing, as far as how we can apply this in our lives, I mean, you can acknowledge the stage that you're in and be with that. But, Donnie didn't stop at just, being able to identify these rhythms. He also created a lot of exercises, like breath work exercises, where you could actually learn how to integrate that information or that unit of consciousness or that meme into the body, right? Where you can embody that wisdom and viscerally feel that rhythm.
Yeah.
And so with the 12 stages, each one has its own unique breathing exercise. And one of the fun things that we love to do at our office is host workshops where we get to sit down, and typically what we do is we'll break it down into 3 to 4 stages a night, where Amy's so brilliant at leading this, but talking about the stage. We even love listening to music, because if you listen to music, a fun game that we like to play is what stages are showing up in the song.
Oh, yeah, right.
See where the artist was, what they were expressing at the time. And so we'll play a song that resonates with that stage of healing, and then we'll go through and actually embody that stage through breath work and through exercise and really get connected to that. We have those frequently. We also sometimes have just big workshops where we'll go through most, if not all of them, in one night. It is so incredibly powerful.
And so nice. And I mean, I was kind of joking about that, like how quickly, because that's what I like to
No,
think.
that is
question. It's a
valid
good
though,
question.
because you value growth.
Yeah.
And the thing is like when you consciously connect to things, you actually do end up moving much more quickly through them. Like things that I remember, something that would pop up previously in my life would take me forever to experience.
Yeah.
And the minute I consciously connect with some things now, it's like in an instant I can go from 1 to 12, and it's just crazy.
Right. And it makes the journey more fun, really, truthfully, when you're I always say I was sleepwalking through a lot of life, just doing or chasing something, but really unconsciously.
Right.
And it is so much more rich to be in that part where you're noticing and consciously, now you can drive wow, I don't have to have that crap come in, because
Right.
I can block and say no and move towards the things I like and move away from the things I don't.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you don't have to be afraid of the actual path, because you know that it's going to shift, it's going to change, something else is coming.
And you have control of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And at the very least, if it doesn't happen quicker, at least it can happen more gracefully
Yes.
with,
Yeah.
with permission to be messy.
Right. Okay, so very last, we can find you at selfunbound.com, and you have lists you can get on their email list for all the workshops and events that they have coming up. And you've really totally changed my life. And so I can see the stages I've gone on, and I so appreciate you, and just from the first to the last. And I keep telling the story just because I think it's funny, but the first podcast, which explains what network spinal analysis is, but Tyler says something like super deep and profound, and I'm like, yeah, and cool, and flip off to it. But I love all this stuff, and it's just things that nobody teaches you anywhere, and it's super good information.
It's so funny that you say that about the first podcast, because I've always been in awe of you and the way that you run them. You truly shine. This is such a gift, and I love experiencing this with you, and so grateful.
Oh, thank
that
you.
We're
It's
here
Fun to
with
see
you.
this part of the
I just
show.
like talking to smart people. Well, for all of you listening, and don't forget to listen to episode 1, 2, please share this episode, because you know that there is always another way.